Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to another day of EECS 440. It is a small crowd in person today, and I can't imagine why. What was due today? Do you recall? We just finished P2 Gold, right? And you can see that right on the schedule. P2 Gold is finished. What is usually regarded as the hardest project in the course is now behind us, okay? If you have not gotten it in, remember you still have 24 hours to do so, but you'll get that 20% penalty. Most of the, I don't think I've ever failed a single person in this course, in EECS 440. It is a course that is historically been graded pretty gently, but if you are itching to not get an A in this course, the main way you can achieve this is by getting those penalties, or for kind of forgetting to turn things in. And so, as long as you're getting things in, you're doing the best you can, it's going to be a good time. Historically, also in my other course, EECS 494, right, EECS 498, whenever there's a big deliverable, usually I come in the next day and no one is there, right? They're going to catch some sleep, they're going to chill a little bit, recover, and watch the recording later, if that. So for all of you watching this on the recording, I hope you recovered. You deserve it. P2 is not an easy project. I look forward to reading your postmortem assignments to get a feel for how it went, okay? We'll be changing it. EECS 440 will be moving to the winter semesters only. So we'll be teaching this course once a year instead of every semester. That'll give us a lot of time to fix the course up and help you have a better experience. So that's something to take note of. P2 postmortem, much like P1 postmortem, it is a moment for you to go and kind of just reflect on how the project went. What do you think of the Unity engine in comparison to the Unreal Engine? What do you think of textual programming versus the more visual programming of Unreal? Always very, very interested in reading those bits of feedback. So today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you a very interesting company. This is a company out of Japan called Toko. And then, when we're done with that, I would like to get into one of our higher level topics for the semester. We're going to talk about XR and its role in education, okay? And if there is any place where XR is really actually having an impact, whether it is shining and finding some semblance of a killer app, it is in education and medicine, okay? And so we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. Toko is itself, I believe, a bit of an educational application. This is an app. They have a very rare business model in the App Store where they actually charge money for the app. As a result, it's not the most popular app in the world, but it is a very interesting one. This is an application that uses augmented reality to try and get you drawing, get you practicing and exercising your 2D art abilities. And when you are learning 2D art, any of you consider yourself a 2D artist? When you are learning 2D art, perhaps the most important thing is simply to consistently get out there and draw, okay? Drawing every day, drawing for 5 minutes, drawing for 20 minutes, or whatever you got time for. If you do it consistently, you'll build up the muscle memory so that you can translate the image in your head onto the piece of paper, and you can do that efficiently, accurately, and quickly. And so how does it do this? Well, this is a game that is going to take place in the real world, AR, and you've got these characters, and you need to draw things for them. You need to draw them a face, for instance. You need to draw them tools that they can use to solve puzzles and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and watch some video footage of this application. This is the trailer, and then I'm going to show you some gameplay footage, okay? Let's take a look. This is one of those trailers that is much worse at telling you what the thing is and much better at telling you what the vibes of the thing is, right? When you watch this trailer, what kind of vibes do you get? I'm just curious. Yeah.
Like sort of handmade, like crafted.
Yeah, crafted, handmade, hand-drawn, right? Have any of you ever played Animal Crossing? Okay, you've got these little animal characters, right? They are expressive, but they're also very simple, okay? They're very communicative with their visuals. They make cute little noises. This, to me, if you've played the series, feels like a cross between Animal Crossing, Pikmin, because the characters speak in pretty much the exact same way that Pikmin characters speak, and Drawn to Life, which is a DS 2D side-scrolling platformer in which you need to draw the main characters, but you also need to draw things like bridges that character can platform across. And so we have this game here. Through its trailer, it doesn't really tell you very much, but it does give you a mood. It gives you kind of a chill, peaceful, friendly vibe, the kind of vibe you might really enjoy if you are sitting down and warming up to do some 2D art, some 2D drawing. And so let's take a look at the actual game and the gameplay itself, and you'll get a feel for what this is actually trying to do and why it does have some impact. Let's take a look. Okay. So we've got a character here. In fact, we've got our two characters from the trailer. And one of the first things you do in this app is you have to draw a face for the second character. Somehow their face has gone missing, and they want you to draw it. In this case, we've got a marker right here. Draw a new face for Azuko and give it to him with the creator. Okay, so we're going to draw some eyes, it looks like. Oh, actually, that's a nose. Okay. I want to point out something really quickly, okay? You remember the other day when we talked about the inner workings of XR or AR? Right here, we have an occlusion failure. If this image looks poor, low quality to you, it's because your brain is saying this character should be further away from the camera than the player's hands. And yet, that's not what's happening. The character, despite being further away, is rendering on top of and including the hands, which are closer. This is the opposite of how it's supposed to work. And when you see this, your brain will probably get a bit uncomfortable for just a moment. If occlusion as a problem can be solved, then we can say, hey, this character should be behind these fingers, at which point the whole scene will look dramatically better, like they're actually there. But this isn't a problem the dev team was able to solve. Okay, so we got a face here, and with the face drawn, we can take a little image of it. The game will process the image a little bit, and will kind of cut the image out of its background, and we'll use it in order to to put it on the character's face. Yep. Nope, missed. Yeah, it's not good. There we go. And that actually, what do you think? That actually looks surprisingly good, right? The character now looks very legit. I don't think we're going to get any blinking animation or anything like that. But you can imagine, right? You can draw any sort of...
You're watching the League of
Hello. We don't care. You can, you can get children. You can get kids. You can get basically anyone, investing time in art, practicing their drawing abilities. If you can spice things up with an app like this, if you can get people interested in the topic, whereas they would normally not care, then you are helping people develop really useful skills. I will say, I really, really, really wish I was better at just drawing simple 2D art. And not just for the joys of it. Why would someone in my position really benefit from being able to draw 2D art? And if I really want to, I can kind of do it. It takes too long, though. Why would a game developer, who's mainly going to be a programmer or a designer, benefit from the ability to draw? Yeah.
You can make your own sprites.
You can make your own sprites, potentially. Now, you don't want to do that because, you're an engineer or a designer. You want to eventually hand it off to someone else. But if you have ideas that you need to communicate, this is an objective that transcends game dev. Mechanical engineers often need to communicate their ideas, their designs to team members, okay? Business people sometimes need to do this, their ideas for new products. If you can draw these things, then you can much more easily communicate what's in your head and transfer that accurately to other people's heads, okay? Super, super important. And I think I'll show you more about that in just a bit. Actually, you know what I want to show you? Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Storyboards. No, storyboards. Here we go. Right here, do you see these images? These are the storyboards for one of the recent Star Wars films. Rian Johnson is a pretty prolific director, directed some Breaking Bad stuff, some really interesting and pretty cool films. He directed Star Wars The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson cannot draw to save his life, and yet he still ended up drawing a lot of storyboards for this film. Why? Because even if the drawings are low fidelity and crappy, you can still kind of figure out what he's trying to draw here, right? Looks like some spaceship angles as something's moving really fast. Fleet comes into frame, right? Then finger, okay? Despite the fact that he can barely draw, clearly, this was enough to help communicate what he was going for with each shot to tell the story. He hands this plan off to artists and animators who can do an amazing job making this all look incredible, and thus his mission is complete, okay? If you look at other film directors, you find like varying levels of drawing talent, up to the point where some storyboards that directors have made are like gorgeous art that end up getting put into art booklets and sold alongside the film, right? Behind the scenes stuff. The ability to draw is something that is extraordinarily valuable. It can help people in many different disciplines throughout their life. If this app is going to help people get inspired to do that by drawing little characters, drawing tools to help them out, that's the kind of thing that I'd give an A+ to in a course like this, all right? Okay, a quick note. Tomorrow, IA and grading applications are going out, and for EECS 440, but also for all of your other courses. So if you want to join the course staff for any of the courses you're taking, and it's not a bad idea. If you've got the bandwidth, not a bad idea. I think graders earn about $15 an hour, and these days $26 an hour for IAs. Also, build a relationship with your professor, and that can lead you to graduate school letters, okay? So if you want to go to grad school, joining a course staff is a tremendous idea. And all of that's going to be coming out tomorrow. So watch your email inboxes. You'll get an email from the CS department, and you can fill out a little application and see if you end up lucky, okay? It is a quick reminder, when you are in this class and using the wonderful headsets that we have, we really want to leave these headsets in good shape, get those cords off of the ground, get them wrapped around the headset like this. What we really don't want is something like this, where the cord is kind of on the ground or where it can be rolled over or stepped on. Because if these cords get damaged, that's kind of the whole headset gone, as far as I know, and that's like $1,000+ for a replacement, okay? So we got to take good care of the facility. The staff works super hard to make this available to us, so we need to make sure it stays available to everyone, okay? And it's not October, but I will show you this horror image right here. One of the scariest things I've seen in years was the moment when I discovered that my lo-fi, low-poly horror game Greek tragedy. You've seen this game a few times. By default, when we ported this to Nintendo Switch, it ran at, if you look here, see, 13 frames per second by default. The Nintendo Switch is 2017 era mediocre mobile hardware, okay? And so you, even if you're making a very simple game, you have to be very careful about the lighting techniques that you use within Unity. You have to be very careful about your scripts, your logic, your canvas, your UI. And otherwise, you're going to end up with terrible frame rates despite having a very simple game. Weak, cheap hardware like the Nintendo Switch can do amazing things in the right hands. But if you are careless, you can run into big trouble. Okay? All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of this? Okay. Let's go ahead and let's talk about games and education. One of my favorite topics, if we can educate people quickly, we can dramatically improve their life. The problem is that educating people today takes forever. It's very expensive. You need to pay professors a lot. You need very luxurious facilities. And the act of getting knowledge into someone's head takes a lot of money. It also takes a lot of time. It's not something that's very accessible. And the question for us is, what can innovations in VR and AR, XR, and game dev, what can they do for the field of education? All right? Does anyone know what this game is, by the way? Have you seen this game before? Yeah? Looks a little familiar. Okay. You're definitely going to be seeing it very soon. Okay? So, why? Why do we care about this stuff, right? The why really, really matters. If you remember from our game engine lecture, right? The what, the where. Game engines are really good at helping you add all of your assets in to creating a 3D world. It allows you to manipulate them, tweak them, create relationships between the objects. But what it can't do is it can't help you figure out why you are building something. Okay, that is a very human question. It's a very entrepreneurial question. All right? And the why really does matter, okay? The what, the where, the how, you're getting pretty good at these, but we really soon have to answer this question of the why. How many of you know or have a strong feeling about what you're going to make for your P3? Your P3 project, okay? It's a tough question, right? What am I going to make? Should I make an educational application? Should I make something in medicine? Should I make a visualization of some sort? Are my teammates going to like all that? You do want to be asking yourself these questions now, because when the project starts, you're only going to have 4 weeks to finish it. And you don't want to waste the first or the second week working on a project that you just really haven't thought about. You don't like it that much. Your team doesn't like it, right? So our uses for XR, if you recall, fitness and health, empathy, training, first responder training, socialization, field trips, commerce, right? Education is a huge part of these classic and successful niches that XR is kind of confirmed to do really well in, okay? And so it really behooves us to talk about education, and that's what we're going to do today, okay? We're going to talk about XR and education. Soon we're going to talk about XR and business, and finally we will talk about XR and its role in art and expression, okay? And so let's talk about education. Education is massive. You may not realize how massive it is, okay? Recently, our governor of the state of Michigan signed a budget for the year, and approaching $25 billion was allocated just towards supporting schools and colleges and universities, okay? In 2021, the entire budget for the entire state was $84 billion. And that means that education eats up a gigantic quarter of the entire budget of the state's finances, okay? If you look at big companies out there, you'll find quite a few that are dedicated exclusively to education. We've got billion-dollar companies and teams like Scholastic that produce educational materials, media, and they do a great job doing it, right? They make a lot of money and impact a lot of people, okay? They bring in a ton of revenue. many, many millions of dollars every single quarter. Okay, absolutely amazing. The University of Michigan itself, which is mostly aimed at being an educational institution, right, has a $17 billion endowment. Do you know how much money Harvard has that they're just sitting on? You know how big their endowment is? I think it's about 55 billion. Okay, Harvard. Let's see, $53.2 billion. Okay, absolutely amazing. And this is money that they can use in case of an emergency. They can use it for many different reasons. And they can just leave it there collecting interest, and they can use the interest for free without draining the principal or lowering the principal. They just get millions and millions and millions of dollars for free just by having that money sitting there in an investment account. So these are big, powerful institutions. The idea that we can gain and gather knowledge is maybe one of the things that makes humans so unique. Okay? My dog can learn some things, right? She can learn a few commands. She can learn to fetch. She can learn to roll over. Can she learn how to build a new tool or a new piece of software? No. Can she learn to fly a plane like I'm currently doing? No, probably not. Okay? Humans are the best organisms we know of when it comes to learning and acquiring skills that they were not born with and skills they were probably never meant to have. Okay? Right? When humans got so good at learning that they started building, nuclear bombs, maybe we were never meant to learn certain things, okay? But we have, right? We're just that good at it, and it's that important to us, all right? It can often take 20 plus years, around a fourth of the average lifespan, to actually finish your main primary education and to start becoming really productive to society and starting to pay that back, right? And that's just amazing, right? A quarter of an entire human's existence is going to be dedicated just getting them ready to actually make a difference and be impactful out there in industry, out there in the real world, in society. And that is a massive amount of time. So a question here, right? A question. How much does the average software engineer make from U of M? How much do you think? Starting job. Now, I'll give you a quick hint, and I don't know this exactly, but most of my students graduate and immediately they're making more money than I do in this job. Yeah. I make pretty decent money in this job. I do all right, okay? I could do better in industry by a mile, but I would say the average starting salary for a UMich software engineer, probably about 90 to 100 grand, okay, a year. If you consider tuition, right, how much you have to pay, some out-of-state and foreign students are paying 40, 50 grand for a single year, okay? That's a lot. Now, imagine if we could get our students to that 100K salary 1 year earlier, only 1 year earlier. That's 1 year that they get of salary that they weren't going to get. And that's 1 year of tuition they don't have to pay. So that's like a 150K swing right there, all right? And we only chopped off 1 year of their education, okay? So can we find a way to shorten our education process just a tiny bit? If we can, that's a massive difference, because multiply that 150K by all of the students on the entire planet. That is a huge, huge, huge difference. If you can make a difference in education, you can really actually change the world very quickly, okay? And so, can we do it? All right. I'm going to show you this clip again. You probably remember this from The Matrix, which we watched earlier in the course. It's one of my favorite scenes ever because it fills me with hope and also alarm for the future. All right? This is what education could one day look like.
Supposed to start with these operation programs first. This major block in the shed. Let's do something a little more fun. How about combat training? Jiu-jitsu. I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu. Holy shit. Hey, Mikey, I think he likes it. How about some hell yes. Hell yeah. I was 10 hours straight. He's so ashamed. I know kung fu.
This is a sparring program, similar to the programmed reality of the Matrix. It has the same basic rules, rules like gravity. What you must learn is that these rules are no different than the rules of a computer system. Some of them can be bent, others can be broken. Understand? Then hit me, if you can.
Okay, so one of the ironies of this scene is that Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne, the two actors here, they probably, in the film, they spend 10 seconds and they learn all of these martial arts. In reality, in real life, they probably had to spend at least 3 or 4 months just to learn it fakely, just to learn the choreography so they could move and do this scene. They probably don't actually know these martial arts to any significant degree. They just know the movements they need to do to make it look like they do. But absolutely amazing. Can you imagine what the world would be like if instead of having to spend 1/4 of your lifetime and hundreds of thousands of dollars on your education, you could click a few buttons. You could start your educational journey where Einstein left off, right? You could download his ideas and thoughts. Your brain could be tweaked electrically in just the right ways to put the correct models into your head. Wouldn't that be something? I'd probably be out of the job, okay? And I would be fine with that. But here's another idea for you. If it's this easy to put ideas and thoughts and knowledge into someone's brain, what else can you put into their brain? Maybe if you're not so kind, if you're not so charitable, you can put anything you want. Maybe you can put the wrong thing. In a world where we are all connected to software, our brains directly connected, what does a virus look like? If a human gets hacked, if their brain gets hacked, what does that look like? Okay, what is an antivirus for the human brain? And there are a lot of really interesting things here, a lot of very scary things, a lot of very hopeful things. But these days, right, there is something of a hunt. There is a hunt to make education easier, to make education more accessible, to make it easier to get people to understand things, and to make it cheaper, okay? So why is education so expensive these days? In the film The Matrix, it looks super cheap, it's super fast, okay? We've got a crew in here that barely has any resources, and they just put martial arts knowledge into Neo's brain like it was nothing, okay? Just some electrical costs, basically. Why is it so expensive in our real world? Why do we need professors? Okay? Because you don't. Everything that I'm teaching you in this course, everything you've learned in other courses, can be found out there for free online. So let me ask you, because I'm actually curious, why are you here? Why are you in this room? Thank you. Why aren't you just grinding YouTube? Why aren't you grinding books at your local library? Yes?
A lot of the time, jobs, they prioritize degrees to show that.
Oh, got you. So it's kind of the certification, right? It is the certificate of authenticity. If you graduate with a degree from Michigan, that means you are an excellent programmer, right? It definitely doesn't, but it probably means that maybe you're an excellent programmer, or at least, pretty good for a junior dev, okay? Yeah, companies, culture, okay, is still pushing this, but more and more these days, you do have people who are not going to college, and yet they are starting to get great jobs, okay? If you can do the work, if you've got the portfolio, you simply have it, right? Why do we need universities, okay? We could just go remote. We could do all of our courses remote, and then we wouldn't need this room, right? We wouldn't need these expensive facilities. Why don't we just have everything be remote only forever? During the pandemic, we proved it kind of sort of works, right? But what was the problem during the pandemic? What was the problem with remote everything? Yeah. Yeah, right? We're not really built for that, at least not yet, right? We don't really get that same sense of interaction. There's a bit of an isolated feeling. People fall off a bit easier. They lose interest in their studies when you're not seeing your professor face-to-face. When you're not seeing your teammates face-to-face, projects can slip behind or fall behind schedule, okay? And so there is some value to all these things, to your college degree, to all that tuition, all right? There is some, but we could try and make it cheaper. We could try and make it more accessible. Why do we need expensive tools, right? Why can't we just grind these textbooks? What you'll find is that a lot of these cheaper means of getting knowledge lack something. What they lack is engagement, okay? When it comes to education, the missing ingredient is engagement. Let me ask you something. How many of you have ever played a video game for longer than you would have liked? You started playing the game, you got so into the game, you look at the clock, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. How did all the time pass? I have played games of Civilization 5 as a grown adult, where I start playing, and then suddenly it's 6 a.m. in the morning, and I actually didn't sleep that day. And it was fine. I couldn't stop. I loved it. I didn't feel addicted. I just really enjoyed the experience, right? And so here's a question. Why will tons of people grind a video game for 10 hours straight like it's nothing? Sometimes video games on history, on geopolitics, like Civ. And yet, if you ask a average student to go home and grind 10 hours of a general chemistry textbook, there's no chance, right? Exceptionally rare that a student can do that. So what's the difference? What's the problem here? Why can't we apply all these wonderful things we see in games and films? People will engage with games and films for 10 hours straight, but we can't get them to engage with general chemistry. Why not? What's the problem? What's the disconnect? It would be great if we could. Well, when it comes to education, engagement really is everything. You can find really bad textbooks on history that technically will give you all the knowledge you need, but you can find people, you can find films on YouTube that actually deliver this knowledge, and they do it very, very, very effectively. History March, let's go Hannibal. Okay. Would any of you like to learn about Hannibal Barca, and his war against Rome? Well, if it's a textbook, you probably don't want any part of that. But if it's a video, I'd like to point out 2.9 million viewers. And if you click this video and watch it, you will watch it all the way through. You will watch 60 minutes like it's nothing. It'll be gone in a second because you can have history material educational material that is executed so well, that is so engaging by expert storytellers, and it's just like playing a video game or watching a Hollywood film. Okay, it's just that good. The knowledge goes down that easily. All right. So engagement is the thing that is missing. Okay, engagement. Well, what does that mean? Okay. Well, I've got a question for you. There's one game out there that actually taught me much of what I knew about reading. It kind of taught me how to read as a kid. Now, I want you to guess which of the following games taught me how to read when I was young. Was it Reader Rabbit, the classic educational game series? You play mini games to kind of learn how to spell things, what different words mean, okay? Was it Reader Rabbit, or was it Jumpstart First Grade Reading? Any of you play this game? Yeah? Fantastic. Super cool. Was it Reading Blaster? You've probably heard of the game Math Blaster, kind of a classic educational game. Did you know there's a reading version? Or, so was it one of these three games, or was it this game? Pokemon Red. Gotta catch them all. A game that has a ton of text in it. A game that has a lot of really cool pocket monsters, dynamic fights, a cool storyline, the ability to trade these monsters, and you can enjoy all of this if you just learn how to read. Because there's a lot of text. Which game? One of these is not like the others. One of these games is far more popular. One of these games was a requirement if you were a kid at the time, okay? You could not have friends in my elementary school if you did not play Pokemon. And you could not play Pokemon unless you knew how to read, okay? So, one of these games is not like the other. I remember very specifically, it's a very vivid memory. I caught a Pokemon, and I didn't know how to pronounce its name. I couldn't spell yet. And so, I remember running over to my uncle, and I would show him the Pokemon, and say, what Pokemon is this? Like, how do you spell this character? How do you say this character's name? And he would tell me, right? And that's kind of how I learned how to read, all right? It was just that important, so I learned it, okay? Well, I've got another question. Which of the following games taught me my early lessons in mathematics and economics? And actually financial stuff, too. Was it Magnificent Maths, a game so obscure that I couldn't find any gameplay footage of it? I could just find the box cover. Was it Zoombinis, Logical Journey? Any of you play Zoombinis? This is a pretty popular one. A lot of people around your age have played this. Was it Math Missions, grade K through 2? Or was it Roller Coaster Tycoon? A game in which you have to manage and run and finance and plan your own theme park. Which was it? Which do you think? I remember it like it was yesterday. Again, these early kind of formative moments for me as a kid trying to learn important concepts. I was out of money. And I had to finish my roller coaster, okay? And I was struggling. How can I make more money? I'm not making money fast enough. I can't finish my park. I was looking through all the little financial menus, and I didn't know what any of the numbers mean. But I eventually found this little button I could press, and every time I pressed the button, the amount of money I had went up. Yes, it was the Get More Money button, right? And so I clicked it as much as I could, and I got a pile of money. I was able to finish my park. But then something strange started to happen. Every month that went by in the game, I would lose money. I would be losing more and more and more and more. It was almost as if I had taken out a loan. Of course, I didn't know what a loan was. I didn't know what interest was. One day, I discovered, looking through the financial menus, that I had taken out 30 grand. Okay? That button, that Get More Money button, was the take a loan button. And by doing so, I put myself in a very nasty financial position because now I had to pay interest on that loan every month and it was hurting my finances. Okay? I discovered and learned and got practical experience with the concept of taking out a loan and paying interest. And I got this experience at a very early age because of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Would you ever describe Roller Coaster Tycoon as an educational game? Not really. I've never heard it described that way. When people say an educational game, what do they usually mean? What kind of thoughts come to mind when you hear that a game is education or made for education? Are they positive thoughts? No. Educational games, they usually suck. They're usually quite low quality, okay? They are not focused on engagement. They're focused usually on just kind of stating and presenting rote facts. They're not made for the player. Who are they made for? Who buys the educational games? The little kid? Little kid gonna walk into GameStop, see an educational game, gonna see Reader Rabbit or Zumbinis and beg their parents for a little bit of dough to buy that game? No. Who buys educational games? Not the kid.
Parents, teachers.
The parents, the teachers, okay? And like, when it comes to cool and what kids find cool, if parents or teachers are in the equation, that's not cool, okay? Not in the slightest. So these games over here that are labeled educational, ironically, they are usually the worst games at teaching, okay? It's the games that are engaging that tend to be able to actually teach and deliver information. The challenge for us is that many of these super engaging games, the knowledge they're delivering isn't the kind of knowledge we really want to deliver, okay? If we could find a game that made general chemistry super engaging, that would be great. Educators would just prescribe that. We'd be playing that between lectures in our general chemistry class. The problem is that a game like Roller Coaster Tycoon teaches you a lot of things. Some of them are not super useful, but some of them are, okay? And I definitely got a lot of math and econ and planning and financial information out of Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I devoured that information as fast as I could. It was delicious, all right? Because the game does such a great job at packaging it, okay? What about astronomy? Have any of you heard of a game called Final Fantasy VII? This is a game that is not known for being educational. It has a lot of reading in it. This is a game that is very long, challenging, okay? But in the final boss fight, the big bad guy, Sephiroth, is going to do something that is going to sear a bunch of astronomy knowledge into your brain forever. You're never going to forget it, okay? And I want to show you that thing. I want to show you Sephiroth's famous move, okay, his famous attack. It's called Supernova. This is an attack that takes about 5 minutes to play out. And I think you're going to see why people deal with this attack and then they never forget astronomy again. Watch this. Yeah, don't watch this. No one cares about this.
Oh, we gotta get.
All right. And then the irony is that after that like 5-minute long attack, that attack didn't KO a single member of the team. Okay. In fact, this attack, interestingly, is programmed to take up 90% of the character's health, I think. So, hey, Austin. All right. Which are the gaseous, gas giant planets? Okay. It's Jupiter. Oh, it's great, Austin. Good job. How did you know that? Well, you see, in Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth sends his big supernova beam at the planet, and you see that it is a darn hollow planet, okay? It has no solid core inside of it. Now, this isn't entirely true. I do think it has a solid core, but it is mostly gas. One of the interesting things here is that it's a very entertaining attack, but it is packed full of astronomical information, right? You get to see that, yeah, we are in the Milky Way galaxy. What planet does the supernova beam, does the supernova beam blow up first? Anyone notice? Pluto. Okay, Pluto gets blown up first. Then we get to Saturn. What are Saturn's rings made of? Well, the comet, the supernova comet, comes through and blows up all the asteroids and ice that forms the Saturn rings, okay? If you didn't know that the rings are made of little bits of rock and ice, well, now you would know, all right? You get to see that Jupiter is hollow, unlike the other planets. What is going to happen to destroy the Earth in billions of years? Does anyone know how the Earth is definitely going to end if we make it that long? Scientists believe in a destruction theory called the red dwarf. What's going to happen is that eventually, as the sun begins to run out of fuel to keep its nuclear processes going, it is going to grow and expand, okay? When it does so, it will begin to expand and consume the other planets. What planet is consumed first in this footage? Mercury, okay? And after that, Venus. The third planet to get wrecked by the sun's expansion is our Earth, which you can see here. And thus, you can get a feel that, wow, a lot of interesting astronomical concepts that are actually real were packed into this one attack in a Final Fantasy game. No one would refer to Final Fantasy VII as an educational video game. Instead, they refer to it as one of the greatest games of all time, and it's one of the most popular games. It's sold a bajillion copies and has a luxurious, super expensive AAA remake that was created in the last few years. And there you go, right? So high quality, engaging games are constantly doling out information, even on some surprising topics, okay? And people tend to remember them because the games are good, right? They're not trying to educate, and ironically, as a result, they end up educating far better than many, supposedly educational games. What about, can you think of any relevant topics lately? What about epidemic progression? Okay. What if we could teach people how public health prevents the spread of disease? What if we could help people understand how disease spreads, what disease needs to spread, and what kind of things combat it and slow it down and eventually stop it? Well, have any of you ever heard of a game called Plague Inc.? This is a famous game. It's not ever talked about as educational. You know why? Because it's good. So let's go ahead and watch the trailer for Plague Inc., and I think you're going to see the appeal. This game was made before COVID-19 struck. Okay? Let's watch.
Commencing autopsy 3. Time 21:04. 27-year-old female infected with unknown pathogen. Blood analysis indicates virus. Provisional name is PAX-12. Deceased had traveled in China before returning home 2 weeks ago. That must have been pre-quarantine. Unknown if had contact with livestock, but I can definitely see evidence of insect bites.
Deceased had reported coughing and sneezing with a high fever. I'm seeing a nasty rash, some abscesses around the abdominal cavity. Clear signs of immune suppression. Cause of death appears to be catastrophic organ failure. Findings match reports coming out of China. This is highly concerning. The deceased may still be infectious. I'm halting the autopsy in order to notify the authorities. Request a full lockdown of this facility, effective immediately.
Does this feel like an educational game to you? It doesn't have that vibe. You know what this feels like? You know what this feels like? A horror game. Lock down this facility. They may still be infectious. Oh my God. And you see these glimpses of the entire planet succumbing to this horrible force, right? It's awesome. It's the kind of thing that like people might actually want to buy. Like players might want to buy, right? Not parents to educate their kid, okay? And so we have this game that is shockingly good at giving you not all the details, okay, not everything is authentic, but a lot of really core concepts when it comes to public health and how disease spreads. In this game, what are some of the strategies? How many of you have actually played this game, right? Like, what is your typical strategy when you play the game?
So, infect as many people as you can, and then try to kill them when everybody's infected.
Yeah. So there's this notion that, you know, you can be very contagious like the common cold, but as long as your deadly symptoms are delayed, right, you can really wreak havoc, all right? If you are super deadly and you start making headlines too early, if you start killing the people you infect too quickly, you will very, very, very quickly trigger quarantine, and that will probably be the end of you, okay? What happens when people start dying? Greenland and Iceland shut down their ports. Island nations shut down their ports. The air travel shuts down, and you can't travel. Maybe if you're lucky, you can travel via some birds or something like that. But one of the common ways to fail this game is that you, as a disease, you spread too quickly and you're too deadly, too early. Because you won't be able to spread to the island nations. They shut down, you can't reach them. And then once you've killed all the humans that you've infected, you're dead. You're gone. You're exterminated. Why? Because you cannot live without any hosts. So you fail, and then the humans repopulate from the islands. Okay? It is a very morbid way for humanity to survive the apocalypse, but humanity will survive, and you will fail the mission. Okay? Your mission in this game being to, of course, eliminate humanity. Okay? And that is not the kind of way that most educational games would be designed. Just the idea of you trying to eliminate humanity would be seen as too morbid, okay? Not very education-y, okay? You think like a school, like an elementary school is going to say, hey, little kids, come in here today. Today you're trying to wipe out humanity. No. Culturally, that's impossible for them to do. But that's exactly the kind of chaotic thing, you know, morally questionable thing that will get a lot of players very interested in your game, in your experience, okay? And in case you're wondering, yes, they did have a COVID-19 DLC pack, okay? Now, if that seems a bit insensitive to you, it definitely is. Fortunately, it was completely charity-based, which kind of fixes the situation a bit. And so you buy that COVID-19 mod or upgrade, and you're helping support the response to the actual real-life pandemic. In any case, what we have here is a really, really cool and engaging introduction to the topic of public health. Would you rather play Plague Inc., or would you rather read this textbook? Okay? What's more common What's more common is that someone plays Plague Inc. They discover how cool public health can actually be as a topic, how important it is, and then they go read the textbook to get the deeper details, okay? And rock and roll. A lot of people get into programming because they love video games, okay? They love video games, and so they go use MIT Scratch or Adobe Flash or Game Maker, and they discover that they really also love logic and programming. And thus, they learn Java, they learn C++, they learn Python, and now they're off to the races. That is what XR and game dev and engagement can do, okay? Accelerate the learning process. And they're so good at that. So there are products that educate, okay? But there are also products that engage while they try and educate, and there are products that just fail to engage. Like they don't care, all right? Over here, we've got a lot of products and pieces of art that are really focused on just being an excellent game first, okay? They realize that they cannot deliver any knowledge unless people are listening, unless people are engaging, okay? Over here, we have products that do not care about engagement, really. They are not trying to engage. They are really just trying to present the information, and they hope that you are interested enough in the topic that you don't get bored. That's just kind of how it goes, all right? One of these types of things, right, is way better at teaching than the other. And that's what people are chasing these days. I'll tell you, in the academic world, there is a gigantic hunt to figure out how we can redo this stuff to be more like this stuff, okay? So gamification, it is sometimes called, and sometimes it works and sometimes not so much, okay? Gamification is way more than just adding a point system onto some textbook, okay? Way more than that. Minecraft. Is this an educational game? Would you describe it that way, off the top of your head? No, probably not, right? How would you describe Minecraft? Someone says Minecraft, or you see someone playing it, and the first thought in your head is, yeah, sandbox, exploratory, creative, right? No one applies that taboo educational label to Minecraft. They might do it after the fact, once they observe that Minecraft is incredible at teaching. Absolutely nuts. It is so good at teaching. And this is a game that actually schools are now using, if you can believe it. Using Minecraft as an educational tool. You're finding this game in more and more elementary schools and middle schools these days. And there's a good reason for that. Let's take a look.
Minecraft is a video game that has a lot to offer. At its core, it's very open-ended. If you want to have an adventure, you can have an adventure. If you want to build something, you can build something. If you want to talk to your friends, you can talk to your friends. If you want to kill monsters, you can kill monsters. So the game appeals to a lot of people. It makes a lot of sense to take a game that's already fun, that's proven to be enjoyable to kids, and try to find a way to bring it to the classroom.
Minecraft EDU launcher. That should be it. Imagine how long this took Brandon to make. I know. Oh! It just drops you from all the way up there.
You know, my school, as well as many others, have been struggling with the issue of how to teach digital citizenship, which is internet ethics, online safety, privacy, research. I mean, it's everything. Because as our kids were getting into middle school, high school, we had a lot of, frankly, ugly incidents happen. And so, the school's administration, along with the computer department, decided we really need to start teaching these concepts earlier. We're going to treat the game world as part of the classroom. It is a classroom, it's just in the digital space. And almost every single kid finally kind of came around and sort of and got it.
instructions that are up onto the board. Okay, you are students. Pick your avatar.
Pixel Pushers, as a student project here at the ETC, is working with Minecraft EDU to develop a series of software features for their software. So our programmers have been working on a quiz block and a lesson review tool to include in the Minecraft EDU software. While we're also working on researching, how and what you can best teach with Minecraft. You can really teach a wide array of things that aren't immediately obvious.
The kids have to think it's fun. Otherwise, what's the point? There's plenty of educational games out there, and frankly, very few of them have ever been very satisfying for me. I never want to use them in my classroom because it smells like school.
Make sure you're using the right material. Make sure you're not using gravel for the parts that are in between the pillars there, because the gravel will fall. Let's check out group 2. Oh, nice. You're almost done with the hard stakes. Good job.
In our research, we started out asking, what can Minecraft teach? As we actually started playtesting with students, we found that that might be the wrong question, and that it's more interesting to ask how can Minecraft teach.
The virtual world of Minecraft, I think, is fun and powerful, for these kids. And I think they get it in a way that I think some of the teachers don't sometimes.
I think the most important thing for someone coming to Minecraft from an educational perspective is to just play the game, to just get a feel for how the game works, and then perhaps even more importantly, let the students play the game.
You have to think about what 21st century kids are living. I mean, they come here to school, but they're texting each other on the way home, and then they're on Facebook, and then they're playing games together. It's all a continuum. They don't separate the conversations that they have typed into Minecraft with the ones that they have in the lunchroom. There's such excitement around this game. Getting that excitement into schools all over the world. The more voices we have coming up with ideas and creating content and sharing content, the better.
Okay. So a couple things really stand out in that video. Number one, did you know that Minecraft has an education edition? Really, really cool stuff, and I'm super happy that they went and did that. They certainly didn't have to do it. If you remember, the person running the lab says that, hey, I looked at a bunch of existing educational games and was never very impressed, right? It smells like school. The students, the kids have to think it's fun. Otherwise, there's no point. Okay, if it's not fun, if it's not engaging, you can't deliver any knowledge, okay? You get people hooked, you get them engaged, and then you can deliver the knowledge that you need to. That is the power of engagement. And so I would be surprised if it didn't work super, super well. I recall how excited I was as a young, primary school student just to get a chance to go into the lab and use computers, right? The software was always terrible. Now imagine that the software is fantastic, okay? That it is as good as the games you play at home. Imagine the things you can do. You heard about quizzes being added into Minecraft.edu. Imagine going on a field trip to the Wild West, not reading about the Wild West, actually going there and seeing the architecture in that kind of blocky, lo-fi form, right? Hearing stories, collecting items from that era, right? Walking over and checking out the beautiful desert landscape. That's way better than just seeing a few images in a textbook, right? Way better. Okay, so where does XR come in? Well, we have, as you've seen before with some products out there, XR is all about engagement, immersion, making you feel like you are in that place at that location. Things like Everest VR. Did I show you the trailer for this one? No, let's watch the trailer. I cannot take you to Mount Everest. I do not have the funding to do so. We don't have the time to train you to be safe on Mount Everest. But with XR, with VR, we can kind of get a little bit of that knowledge, okay? And so here is Everest VR. Let's take a look.
In this special expedition to Everest in VR, we invite you to journey across the mountain, where you'll discover interactive audio and visual guides that explore the environment, history, and the physical challenges that climbers face on Mount Everest. We hope these stories inspire and drive you to embark on adventures of your own.
So this is a piece of software that recreates Mount Everest virtually and allows you to look around it, walk around it, interact with it, see and travel to a bunch of different locations on it, different base camps. It also shows you 360-degree video of actual human beings going up that mountain, right? So you can't get the full experience. You can't really get close to the full experience, but this is probably 1,000 times better than watching a video or a film or reading a textbook about the topic. It's all safe, and it is much cheaper than purchasing plane tickets and equipment to try and make a go of it yourself. The Titanic and its sinking was a really pivotal kind of moment in navigation history, okay? And is a topic of great interest for many people. And so we can't exactly take you to that moment in time in real life. We don't have a time machine, and you wouldn't want to be there in real life as the thing sinks around you. But we can create an experience that recreates that and allows you to get a feel for what it might have been like, okay? Titanic VR.
This huge thing with 4 panels. I thought she was something out of the ordinary, my gosh. She was a lost word of luxury.
Head for that ship on the horizon. Transfer your passengers and tell their captain to come at once. We require urgent assistance.
We'll head straight for another boat.
Bring up children! Final call!
Right, it's time to go.
No! No! My daddy! No!
She had everything that you could think of. She was a beautiful ship.
So this game, to give you some more context, right? It is not a straightforward recreation and tour like Everest VR. This is a genuine game that uses a lot of kind of classic and formidable game structure elements. This is a game in which you go down in a submarine to look at the ship after it has sunk. And you need to upgrade your equipment in order to get lower and lower and deeper into the ship. Well, as you get deeper into the ship, you find artifacts, and those artifacts kind of take you back in time, and they allow you to experience the ship before it strikes the iceberg. It allows you to experience the panicked moments when you're trying to escape from the ship. And after you come back, you find more upgrades. You can get further, right? The narrative evolves. This is not just a straightforward tour. This is an actual entertainment-based game, okay? With a lot of thought put into how you progress through it. But it's going to teach you a lot, okay? And you're going to get a real feel for what the ship was like and what it was like to be on before it was wrecked and what happened to it afterward. Okay, what caused it to fail and all that good stuff. All of it wrapped in a very, very clever package that is first and foremost trying to engage you. And then after you're engaged, it delivers the knowledge that you want. Okay? And so just fantastic stuff. This is another fun one. This is a game that I played for free in this lab. I wonder if it's still loaded on these computers. This is a journey into your gut. Okay? A biological journey into your gut made by, of course, the famous game studio Kellogg's, i.e. the people who make your breakfast cereal. The people in Battle Creek made this game. Okay? And it is kind of an advert game, right? Sometimes corporations will build games just to advertise their brand. It was surprisingly good. You board a little vessel, and you have to deploy materials and resources in order to make your gut bacteria healthy. This idea that some bacteria is genuinely great for your gut and you want it there, you want it to have what it needs to grow and be prosperous. But then some bacteria you need to deal with. Okay, it'll make you sick if you can't take care of it, or if it grows out of control. So let's watch really quickly. Not super long, surprisingly good, and I recommend it, totally free. Okay, in the United States, for the time being, there is an institution known as the NSF. You know what that means? The National Science Foundation. And there's a lot of things in flux right now about how funding works. But they are one of the big institutions that will provide you resources and grants and money to go explore a new scientific idea. Okay, if it's a good idea, if you've got some good people teaming up with you, they might give you an award, an NSF grant. And one of them that is of particular interest is called Prisms of Reality. Okay, you can actually look up their grant number and learn more about how they got this money, how much they got. And they are basically a VR education company that built a VR pandemic era disease spreading simulator. Kind of sort of like Plague Inc., but maybe not quite as fun. Here's the game on Steam. It cost $9, and I'm going to show you the trailer. And I don't know, I kind of feel mixed on this one. It seems a little bit engaging, but it also seems to have some of that educational game school energy, which I would say you're usually trying to avoid, okay? But let's take a look.
Good afternoon. Today I'm declaring a state of emergency in our city. Over the last couple of weeks, we have seen an alarming rise in the number of infections from an unknown virus.
This Prisms algebra learning game enables kids, parents, and teachers to deepen their understanding of exponential functions through a problem that's affecting all of our lives today, a global pandemic. Your critical mission on this task force is to determine the number of weeks until our hospitals reach capacity.
Okay. So kind of interesting. possibly the most interesting thing about this is that it got funded for $250,000. So they also took, I think, about 2 years to finish this game. So think back to Project 1 and what you were able to make yourself on just a team of 2, okay, in not 2 years, but how much time did you have? About 4 weeks, right? 3-4 weeks. That's it. If I gave you a team of like 5 or 10, and I said, you have 2 years, not 4 weeks, but 2 years, and I'm going to give you $250,000. You think you could make what you just saw in the video there? How confident are you? I think you could make it. I think you could do something actually quite a bit better. That's how it goes sometimes. I'll also say in this video footage you saw, most of the really interesting kind of data visualization things could have just been done in 2D, right? You saw a lot of interfaces where there were graphs that were in VR in front of your face, but what is that really providing that a 2D interface like this laptop screen can't provide? One thing that is very cool in that footage was there was a mode where you can walk around a virtual environment and you can actually see how far the disease can spread when someone sneezes, for instance, right? So being even a noticeable distance away might not protect you from kind of airborne illnesses like that. So that definitely seems like a good use case for VR, but not all of it does. What about AR? One of the coolest kind of educational uses for AR I've seen in a while is something that, Richmond, Virginia actually deployed to help you learn about the history of that city when it comes to, for instance, the Civil War era. Do any of you know why Richmond was really important and notable during the Civil War? Yes?
It was across from Washington, D.C.
Yep, it was right across from Washington, D.C., and it was also the capital of the Confederate States of America. So basically, it was the enemy capital during the Civil War, okay? And so let's take a look at what is going on in Richmond and some of the cool tech stuff they've got going on these days.
In terms of wearable AR, this is the only place in the country where you can find
this application of this technology to the Confederate Monuments controversy.
A Richmond-based company is using augmented reality
along with audio for a new tour about Monument Avenue's history.
One which took center stage this past summer with the removal of all but one Confederate monument. Greg Werkheiser is a cultural heritage lawyer as well as the co-founder and CEO of Art Class, which provides historic tours for over 50 sites across the globe, but is first in RVA.
We design augmented reality software that allows you to put on transparent smart glasses and walk around and see layered over your view of the real-world landscape all kinds of digital magic. The technology acts like a time machine, takes you from the present back to the past, and then back to the present again.
The tour is conducted by Lexi Cleveland.
Because I love Richmond, this is my hometown, this is where my family's from, so being able to share the story of Richmond in a more honest way is very important to me.
Cleveland is also a public historian and vice president of Client Services for Art Class, who led the development of the project. Here's what she says people can expect in this unique experience.
So they're going to look at the monument. All they do is press and hold this button. That'll start the content, and different stops have different types of content. So some of them have like 360 surrounds. So you actually have to like look around to like see everything. Some things have billboards like place in various locations. Some things are front one.
The tour that lasts about 90 minutes is being offered for free. That's because both Werkheiser and Cleveland say this was a way to give back, but more importantly, say they hope after the experience this will help the city move forward. Because the story of Monument Avenue is not finished. It's evolving.
The communities that have Confederate monuments are in the midst of a very serious conversation, and we want that to be fact-based.
We're all neighbors, so that human element of being able to have a conversation with your neighbors is important, because then you can ask questions, you can have conversations instead of just kind of seeing some content and being like, well, where do I go from here? I still have questions.
And some of the things you'll be able to see in the AR tour include stereograph photos that are over 150 years old, showing the devastation of Richmond after Confederates burned it on their way in their retreat, as well as the removal of the monuments that were taken down this past summer. Now, if you are interested in taking a tour, just visit artglassgroup.com.
Right? So the idea that we can use AR to let you take a look at the city that you grew up in, the city you're visiting, the city you love, in a different time period, right? In one of its most tumultuous and important time periods. And so sounds a lot more interesting to me than just reading about it in a textbook. Actually being there, being able to see the monument, being able to walk up and touch it, confirm it's real, and know that tremendous history has happened in that exact spot where you now stand. Yeah, much more memorable, in my opinion, than just reading a textbook. Whenever I'm reading a textbook, I can never get this idea out of my head that the thing I'm reading about is just fake. You know, it might not exist, or it exists out there somewhere, but for me, only in the pages of that book. When you go to some place, you actually can feel it. You can hear the sounds, you can smell the air, you can confirm to yourself that this is a real place where real things happened. All that history becomes much, 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 much more real. But perhaps that's just me. Okay, so, and getting people out and about, right? Getting people learning about their local communities. When Pokemon Go launched, one of its most impressive elements for me was that suddenly people had a reason to look at the world around them in a way that they usually don't. An alleyway that you might walk past on the way to dinner on occasion or drive past daily on your way to work, suddenly you have a reason to go in, and you might discover something there that makes your understanding of the world around you a little bit more real, a little bit more accurate, a little bit more rich, okay? So the takeaway here, right? You can get knowledge in many, many different forms, okay? And if you put enough effort in, then you can get it anywhere. You don't have to go to college to learn everything you need to make an awesome VR or AR application these days. But techniques like this just aren't all that good, okay? They are very old school techniques, and they aren't super good at engaging people in order to deliver their information. Compare the idea of reading about a gas leak to the experience of being next to one and actually having to dynamically react to a randomly generated scenario, okay? Where you can't just memorize things. You don't just read about other people's experiences. You don't just see a still image. No, you're in the situation, and unless you act now and correctly, you're going to have a devastating result, okay? It's just a world of difference, in my opinion, a world of difference. And just the technology alone, right? You are going to have trouble getting people excited for this, but people might inherently be interested in this, regardless of the content. Putting a headset on, being in that environment, who knows what could happen. That sounds awesome, okay? And I want to give that a shot. I do not care to become a first responder, right? That's not my career path. I'm not thinking about switching my career to this. If you give this textbook to me, I won't read more than a page or two out of curiosity. But this, like, you could have me in this for half an hour plus, okay? Just because it seems interesting, and I might be interested in learning more about that job, right? In an engaging way, assuming it's well made. So I've got a question for you. Which would be more engaging? I'm going to describe two experiences to you, both of them educational. Which one will you choose? Number one, the Oregon Trail is a historical survival simulator set in the 1850s, where players must plan carefully and think critically to survive a perilous, desperate journey across America's western frontier. Okay? Are you going to play that to learn, or are you going to play this to learn? Oregon Trail is a historical quiz game where players answer questions about 1850s American migration to score points. Which one of these? Okay, how many of you want this one on the right? Quiz game. Okay, quiz game. What about the left? This quiz is kind of a sorry attempt to gamify the topic. Gamers like points, right? Oh yeah, we'll get them excited by making it point-based. Like a college quiz. Okay? We'll give them questions, like a quiz show, i.e. the same thing you find at the back of every chapter of a boring history textbook. Okay? This is not what we mean when we say we want to make education engaging. All right? We want to make a topic so cool, so interesting, that you cannot help but watch the next chapter and learn a little bit more. How many of you watch documentaries, like legitimately on occasion on a topic? You go to YouTube, right? There are a lot of people who do that genuinely today for fun, okay, in their recreational time, okay? You can get to a point where the delivery of knowledge is so well executed that people do not see it as educational anymore. They just see it as great content, and they learn a ton while they consume it. Over here, we have the actual famous Oregon Trail video game that actually is kind of the origin of the roguelike genre, if you ever play games like that. Oregon Trail was created in 1971 by a person I know, a friend of mine, 1971, a guy named Don Rowich. He was an elementary school instructor at the time. He was a new instructor. And interestingly, he needed to teach a unit on kind of 1850s America. If you don't know what was happening during that time, there were a lot of tensions. The Civil War was kind of brewing. It hadn't launched yet. And the United States had just won a war with Mexico, the Mexican-American War, and had just gotten California, Oregon, New Mexico, basically the entire western side of the country. And the United States was very nervous about this because a piece of paper can say that you own a piece of land, but unless you have people there, you don't actually own that land. And so Congress created something called the Homestead Act. You remember that? A famous act that basically said, hey, if you go out west and agree to farm this land for 5 years straight, it's yours. You can have it. Okay? And that was a means of trying to spread out the American population and get more Americans into the newly won territory in the West. It was a very visceral and dramatic era. A lot of people died heading out west, following the Oregon Trail to get to Oregon, to get to California, all those places. A lot of Native Americans died as well. It was a very, very sad time. But in order to teach this, Don Rowich did not have any textbooks that had this material. And so what is he going to do? He's got 2 weeks to prepare. Well, the school doesn't have any textbooks, but what it does have are a couple mainframe, like IBM computers. Okay, imagine that. You could afford these super luxurious computers in your school district, but you can't get any textbooks. Okay? That does sound like America to me. So, what are we going to do? He decides to create a game, a simulation that you can play through, and you try to survive. You try to survive the Oregon Trail, make it out to Oregon, and the decisions you make are actually the decisions that the travelers had to make. And when you made these decisions wrong, you die. Okay? You're going to get yourself into a horrible problem. You'll run out of food. You didn't buy enough. Oops, you didn't have any ammo, so you got robbed along the trail. Okay? Your wagon broke down and you didn't have any spares. Okay, maybe you can trade some material for some spare parts. Good, you're back on the road, right? You can go hunting. You need to get across this river. Are you going to pay someone to guide you across? Are you going to just try and float your wagon across, or are you just going to roll through? Okay? And that decision is really, really important. Okay? Education 333 is a great course that runs, I think, every semester. And if this is really a topic that interests you, how does XR and game dev intersect with teaching? Okay? Then this is the course to take. If you ever take EECS 494, you'll learn that game development, right? Game design is literally all about education and teaching your players. You try and do so as elegantly as possible. No one likes to read a big wall of text. when they're trying to enjoy a game, okay? But there are other ways to teach people elegantly. So what we're going to do, we don't have enough time this time, but next time we're going to start our lecture by traveling to Oregon together, okay? We are going to have a wagon leader. One of you will be up here leading us to the promised land. We'll help you make decisions, and we'll see if we survive or if we fall victim to the many perils along the trail. And you're going to get a feel for why this was such an effective way to educate people. I'll tell you, a spoiler, this game is so well known because it was so successful at teaching. It burned itself into the memories of school children, into adults who played the game. And people could not get enough, all right? They weren't just reading about the challenges of the era. They were living those challenges. They were making decisions. They were experimenting. And as a result, they learned far more and far more quickly and far more permanently than they ever would have with just a textbook and some vanilla-style quizzes, okay? So what I want to do is we're going to come back next lecture, and we're going to play through this together, okay? And next lecture, actually, if you look, next lecture is going to be at an alternative location, the Design Lab 1. So we're going to be right out the hall, and we're going to be in the adjacent room, and we're going to play some Oregon Trail, okay? And maybe some people from the public will stop by too. We'll have to see. We have our 8 p.m. film session next week on Wednesday, all right? On Monday, we're also going to be launching P3. And so over this weekend, I'll send some reminders. If I remember, I'll send a reminder for you. It's time to figure out who your P3 team is going to be. Talk with them, figure out what you want to do as far as your final project. And we're really getting close to the end of the semester, y'all. It's not too far away. So thank you for joining us. It's good to see you, and I hope you have a good weekend, okay? Relax and recover from that project 2 so you can start P3 off quickly. Okay, I think we didn't take our break halfway through. I apologize for that, but we'll end a little bit early so you can go use the restroom now, okay? Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. And I'm going to go ahead.
As a fan of our channel, you should definitely check out our friends over at Space Forces at the West End. Zagontian stubbornly kept pushing heavy Carthaginian assault back, but the siege went on for months, and the many assaults gradually wore down portions of the wall.
Right, you can just feel the quality here, right? Dramatic stories told in a really effective fashion with good production values. Super, super nice. Okay, all right, I'll see you later. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.